On June 19th, I visited Negril, Jamaica for vacation for 6 days. I would have been remiss if I only enjoyed the white sand beaches and the blue, crisp, cool Caribbean Sea and not visit one of the local schools. So I had one of the hotel staff members to call ahead and get permission from the headmaster, and she and her staff welcomed me with open arms. The taxi let me out directly in front of the school, and my mind suddenly drifted back to my school, Walter Francis White. I thought about how decorative and inviting our building was. I thought about how comfortable each of our individual classes were. Then reality hit. I was not at Walter Francis White. I was not in the United States of America, one of the richest countries, but yet I was in a country where poverty was evident by the locals' daily routine. A country where teachers make between $450 to $600 US per month. A country with little resources for the advancement of their people. I was at Negril All Age School in Negril, Jamaica. As I approached the school, I couldn't help but to think about the movie The Color Purple. The structure and age of the building arrested my mind and took me back to a place long, long before my time. Images that occupied my mind through books and stories that I had read and heard. Once inside, there was a calming spirit in the air, which spoke loudly. It said, "Thank you for the little things. Thank you for the simple things." As I studied the little faces, I saw potential. I saw a desire to be the best. But I couldn't understand how the spirit of peace and the muted voices of thank yous were drifting through this building. I could not understand why they were moving forward with yet so little. I could not understand why they were filled with such joy but yet so little. I could not understand the hope and the admiration that the teachers had for their students, but yet so little. As I went from one emotion to the next, I tuned into the noise level. It was noisy. It sounded like recess, but only it wasn't. It was noisy. It was noisy because there were so many students crowded into this room, only separated by partitions for each grade level. It was so crowded. The students had to crawl under desks just to move about the room. Each class had on the average of 45 to 68 students in the classroom. And no, there wasn't an assistant. I did ask. My mind began to rewind and play back a conversation I had with some of my colleagues earlier this year. I was indulging in the "our classes should be smaller" conversation. If only I knew then what I know now. It was hot. It was so hot. There wasn't any air conditioning, only fans to send a cool breeze every once in a while to those that were lucky enough to be standing near. I tried not to make a dramatic scene by fanning myself and acting out the hot stage play that we normally do when we're hot. What good would it have done? No one would have noticed, and frankly, I don't think they would have cared. They were all acclimated with the conditions, and they didn't seem to need me to persuade them to think or feel otherwise. The floor was uneven and cemented, very, very hard and uncomfortable. The paint on the walls were cracking, and the posters on the walls were outdated, and in most cases, they weren't age appropriate. There were mosquitoes, or shall I say, killer sucking giants, in every corner, and ants filled the trash cans like sand that filled the beaches. There were so many. I see a light. I see a light. The shock was over, and empathy began to surface. I realized I was the only one who didn't get it. I was the only one enraged by the poor conditions of the school and pointed fingers in my mind to their government and imagining them sitting back and watching these children suffer. I was the only one who seemed bothered. But I see a light. I hear a light. I hear children speaking with much articulation. I see children reading with much zeal. And I hear children debating, investigating, and asking questions at the highest levels of bloom. I see children waving their hands in the air with eager to give answers when their teachers gave them opportunities to shine. I noticed how they reveled in the positive affirmations from their teachers. I then began to notice how ignorant I had been to think they were disadvantaged because they did not have the luxuries I thought they should have had. I began to notice how ignorant I was for imagining the school being taken over by the annoying ants and the killer giant mosquitoes and the unattractive walls and putting an end to their learning. How naive was I? How could I have been so naive? So naive to think that determination, willpower, and the appetite to learn and succeed would underweigh the heat, the chip paint, the overcrowdedness, and the annoying ants and killer mosquitoes. How naive was I? I am grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful. This reminds me of a poem by Maya Angelou, and it's called A Lesson. This experience, rather, reminds me of a poem by Maya Angelou called The Lesson. I keep on dying again. Veins collapse, opening like the small fist of sleeping children. Memory of old tombs, rotting flesh, and worms do not convince me against the challenge. The years and cold defeat live deep in lines along my face. They dull my eyes, yet I keep on dying because I love to live. Thank you.